I'm very excited to share something with you today. This is the first Swiss Army knife, the original Swiss Army knife. It's a model 1890 soldier knife, and I've just been able to acquire this, and I'm very excited to have it in my collection. I've had every other major model and variant in my collection, but I've never come across a model 1890. And I've been looking for one for a while, looking on eBay and following some Swiss sellers and a couple of French and German sellers, and I've just never seen one come up. So the way I came to acquire this knife is I've been buying some knives directly from a gentleman in Switzerland, a dealer there, and I asked him, I said, are these ever available, and if so, at what price? And I don't speak French and he doesn't speak English, so we Google Translate back and forth on email, and he came back and said, yeah, they're still available, but they're getting harder to get, of course. And he gave me a price range. And, it's pretty high. So I emailed him back and I said, if you could find me one, if it were one of the more common date stamps, it would make it more affordable for me. And it doesn't have to be in perfect condition. I just want an example. So he found this one for me and sent me some pictures. And I really loved it and pulled the trigger, jumped right on it. And I just got it about a week ago. I've been meaning to make this video. But as you can see, it's in pretty good shape from the outside. I didn't know what to expect, and I was willing to buy one that, heck, was rusted shut, with missing scale or something like that, cracked, broken handle. I didn't care. Just wanted one. And as you can see here, the oak scales on this one are in great shape. The knife looks really good from the outside. All the tools are... They all function properly. The blade is a bit wasted away from years of sharpening, and I will show you that in a moment. But I was very pleased with the overall condition of it. Just a quick rundown on the history of these knives. I've covered some of this in some earlier videos, but it all started back in 1889 when Swiss Army got a new rifle, Schmidt-Reuben, I guess. And they needed a screwdriver to take that down. And they had a lot of other tools at the time. They had a single blade knife, they had some tools for the rifles, but they wanted to roll all that up into one multi-tool folding knife. So they put out a bid for that, and they got a couple of designs submitted. One had a can opener, and one did not. And the one with the can opener was accepted and used because that was very important. Many of their rations were in tins and they needed to be able to open those. So I guess it became an official piece of equipment on December 6, 1890. So that's called the Model 1890, although they really didn't deliver any until 1891. And the first knives were produced by Wester and Company in Solingen, Germany, because there wasn't any Swiss cutler that could handle the amount of order, the numbers that they needed. So I think the first 15,000 were produced by Wester and Company, and then some other early producers were De Perez and Lorech and Company, which is what this knife turns out to be. Lorech and Company was later absorbed by Wenger, or the company that was to become Wenger, I think Paul Boucher and Company. The Coutellerie Swiss blade stamp. But they started delivering these in 1891, and Carl Elsner, who started Victorinox, he organized Swiss cutlers kind of into an association, kind of a cottage industry, and they had knife smiths producing the individual pieces, and then they'd bring them together at assembly locations, and master cutlers would put them together. So they're all completely handmade, and no two are exactly alike. You can't use the parts interchangeably if you're trying to repair them or something because of the differences in tolerances. But throughout the run of this knife, there were over 10, maybe 10 or more manufacturers, and some were German, so it wasn't always just a Swiss endeavor. And so you can see a lot of different blade stampings and things like that. This knife in particular, as I mentioned, is a Octave Lorech and Company. If you can see that blade stamping, it says Forge Valourbe, Forges du Valourbe, Forges of Valourbe, and L plus C, and there in the middle. That's for Gresham Company. And that company was started in 1884, I think, and started, delivering these knives in 1891. The gentleman that I bought this knife from, he gave me history, for this area in Switzerland and the cutlery business there, going back to 1675. So there's great history there. But as you can see from this knife, this is the main drawback of this specimen is that the blade's been sharpened a lot over the years, and it's wasted away a little bit. It should be fuller, from the choil here up to the point. But I don't care so much about that because there are two things. First of all, if it were perfect, I certainly couldn't have afforded it. And number two, that tells a story to me. I can just, in my mind's eye, see people sharpening this, putting this knife, to good use over all those years. So I think a knife that's almost, 120, 125 years old should look like it's been used. And you could see from these knives that, they did use carbon steel back then. They didn't have stainless steel until 1921. So you're going to see some staining and pitting. They were susceptible to rust, and I'm sure this knife has been cleaned several times. You won't see a date stamp on any of the 1890 models, knives, because they didn't start stamping the knives until 1921 with the date stamp, the two-digit date stamp. So that started with the 1908 model. And the stainless steel started with the 1951 model. But the basic tools are what you'd expect: your main blade there, and then the screwdriver, the all-important screwdriver for the rifle. And it's just very basic. It has no other function. There's no wire stripper. There's no cap lifter. I don't suppose there were any caps to lift back then. Here's a can opener, however, and it's of course the old style. And that opened your tins from the side. And again, the tins were very important in their rations. And then there is an awl. I think they referred to it as an awl back then, not a reamer. And it's a three-sided affair, tetrahedral. It's got two flat sides and a rounded third side. It's not really sharpened on the edges. But as I mentioned before in some of my videos, this was very important back in that day and age. They relied a lot on horses. And this was good for leather tack, leather equipment, boots, things like that. So, you can see that knife, I think, is in pretty good shape. I date this knife from 1891, when they first started manufacturing them, to no later than 1901, because in 1901 they made the only change to this model. These wooden scales were not very durable. They would break or crack, so they replaced them with the reddish-brown fiber scales that you see on the 1908 and 1951 models. So this knife, dates somewhere between 124 to 116 years old. Now, my knife does not have a Waffen control stamp, and officially, only knives with Waffen control stamps were issued to soldiers. So I'm thinking this knife was probably... I see a lot of these knives that, at least pictures of these knives, that don't have the Waffen control stamp. And I think what you're seeing there is you're seeing a knife that the soldier bought privately to replace a lost one or one that was damaged, maybe outside of service. Also, they would buy knives privately to keep them nice for their annual inspections. They would use their officially issued one, in the field and rough it up, and then when it came time for their annual inspection, they would pull out their privately acquired one. What else can I tell you about this knife? Well, I could kind of compare it, I guess, to the 1890 model. And here's the 1890 model. I'm sorry, the 1908 model. So 1890 model, 1908. And you can see the main differences. You've got these red fiber scales instead of the oak. Now this was either oak or ebony, and I believe this one would be oak because it's the open grain you can see there. But they treated it with an oil to seal it, and I think kind of harden it, make it more impervious to things like moisture and oil. The fiber tended not to crack as much. They used that. Still would have a cracking problem, particularly around the rivets. But you can see the size is same length. They're both 100 millimeters. The 1890 model, however, is wider and heavier. The 1890 model is 20.5 millimeters versus 16.5 millimeters in width for the 1908 model. And the cheeks are rounder. The handle's rounder. You know, you can tell how it rocks there on the table, where this one is a flatter type of. I actually think this one feels better in your hand. And honestly, this is a great knife to hold, and you can just feel how robust and heavy it is. And I honestly wish they would make something modern like this, you know, with such hefty tools and such a great feel in the hand and palm. It's just right. It is heavier. It's 144 grams. This one's 125 grams. And that, you know, weight difference obviously comes from the overall width and the tools. The tools are all a little, I don't know if they're a little bigger, but they're, you know, as far as length, but they're definitely thicker. And then the other change, I guess, that was pretty big between these two models is, you know, on the 1890 model, you had a spear point blade, even though that one looks more like a pen knife now. And they, for some reason, they went to a clip point blade on the 1908 model, and then they went back to the spear point blade on the 1951 model. So this is the only time they used that clip point blade. And you can kind of tell, I guess, looking at those two blades, what that 1890 model blade really ought to look like if it were full. Like I said, that's okay with me. Oh, and the 1951 models, they were always stainless, so they look good. Easy to get nice looking examples of those. All right, well, that's just a rundown on the model 1890 Swiss soldier knife, the original Swiss Army knife. I'm real happy to have it. I'm excited about it. I don't think I will sell this knife for a very long time. I'll probably be an old man before I let this go, because it has an important place in my collection. But if you've got one to show, if you should come across this video and you have some information on this, please share it with me. And I hope this has been helpful for you. And I've certainly had fun collecting these, and I really appreciate you watching. If you have any comments, please leave those below. Thanks.